Welcome to Project You. This podcast explores how integrating changes into your day can produce the best in health, longevity, and performance. We've recruited experts from around the globe who unleash their wisdom to transform your world. Project You dives into how to live a fully optimized life and uncovers tools and techniques to unleash your maximum potential. You only get one shot at this life. So let's get started.
All right, so welcome to episode 26 of the Project You podcast. As always, I hope you are having an amazing week. We're rolling this out in the later part of summer, as we're gearing up for the start of school, which can be stressful for all of us at times with kids' activities, increased driving activities, workload, all the usual stuff. What I wanted to do in this episode is introduce a concept called leaky gut. You may or may not have heard of this, but it's very critical that you know about it. And so let's dive into it. And so what is leaky gut and why should you care? The insides of our intestinal tract, our GI tract, are very thin. In fact, they're just one cell thick. And that's a very small barrier between the outside world and the inside of our bodies. And that barrier has a critical function. Normally, these cells, under ideal circumstances, are held really tightly together, and nothing gets through, nothing leaks through. But because of stress and inflammation and a variety of lifestyle choices, nutritional choices, sometimes those cells separate a bit and allow things to leak through. Well, is that a big deal? It doesn't sound like it. Should it be? But the issue is that our guts are full of bacteria. In fact, we are in the minority. Our cells are dwarfed by the sheer number of bacterial cells that live inside of our guts. And so if these cells leak, bacteria can gain access into our bloodstream, which the body does not like, obviously. And the other thing is that microscopic food particles, as they're broken down, can also leak through these little junctions where the cells are separated a bit. And as soon as that happens, the body tags them as foreign invaders and just totally gears up for a massive affront, a massive attack. And so what does that mean for you? Well, anytime our immune system is revved up, it produces a variety of chemical messengers that sort of tell which cells in our body should respond to the attack. And in the process, it also generates inflammation. It's a sort of a normal process of gearing up for battle. And so the overall goal is for the body to kill the invaders, whether they are food products or bacteria, a combination of both, viruses, any of the above. The body attacks them. And so during this process, unfortunately, the inflammation is not directed specifically at the area where it occurs. I mean, certainly the cells are rushing in that area to attack the invaders, but these messengers are circulating throughout our bloodstream and can result in sort of a general widespread inflammation. And so what that means for people who are suffering from leaky gut is they may experience a whole host of symptoms: bloating, gas, cramps, abdominal pain, fatigue, sinus infections, sinus congestion, seasonal allergies, mental fog, feeling just inflamed and sore all over, rashes. That's just sort of scratching the surface of some of the symptoms that have been reported with leaky gut. The critical thing here to know, particularly in light of what's happening in our society in general, including with our kids, is obesity. Leaky gut has been linked to increased rates and risk of obesity and the development of diabetes. That may sound like a stretch, but here's why. Researchers believe that because of the repetitive inflammation and attack of foreign invaders, that the pancreas, the organ that produces insulin, which helps regulate our blood sugar, is damaged. The little beta cells that produce insulin are somehow affected and damaged in this process, and that can lead to the development of diabetes. And so how to fix leaky gut? This is more of a complex discussion that I'll dive into in later posts and later episodes in the podcast. But basically, you can look this up. It's the 4 R's. You want to remove offending agent. You want to replace with some nutrition and pre and probiotics, reintroduce healthy bacteria, and allow the gut to heal and repair itself. So that's just sort of, in a nutshell, the 4 R's. And I've talked in previous posts and podcasts about the difference between pre and probiotics and why that's important to know. And if you're part of the 7-day refuel, we dove into the stress management, and I've had a few stress management experts on the podcast before. But stress results in inflammation, results in leaky gut, and sort of all fuels and feeds together in a vicious cycle. I'll talk much more about this in a later post and podcast. But also, just to bring up a little bit of food for thought, the gut basically is a second brain. And the reason being is that the bacteria produce chemicals and substances that allow them to communicate with each other. It sounds strange how such a tiny little thing could actually communicate with each other, but just like a swarm of bees or a flock of birds can sense each other's movement through the air and coordinate their flight, the same thing happens with bacteria in our gut. They actually can coordinate their behavior and their defense system, their attack on us. So it's very powerful. The other thing is that about 70 to 80% of our immune system lies in the gut. So if the gut's inflamed, the immune system may not be functioning right. Moving on to not to throw out a bunch of medical terminology, but the neurogastroenterology. It's basically the gut is functioning as a second brain, produces hormones, serotonin, neurotransmitters, things that regulate our mood, our memory, and relate to depression, fatigue, and all those issues. And so keep that in mind. We'll dive into that much more in a later episode. I'm trying to keep these short and concise to make it understandable and actionable. And so what if, I want to leave you this final thought, what if you could support your gut and the bacteria in your gut, and you could decrease inflammation, improve your mood, improve your energy, cut out some risk for diabetes, and for people who suffer from autoimmune conditions like rheumatoid arthritis and a variety of other host of illnesses. What if you could improve or even reverse some of those things? We'll dive into some of those issues and talk to some experts and help you sort of understand how critical it is to take care of your gut in the process of achieving optimal health, longevity, and performance. So that's it. If you have comments or feedback, I'd love to hear it. You can reach me on Twitter at Dr. Mitchell MD. I shut the comments off on the blog because it was getting just too messy, and there was a fair amount of spam that was just taking way too much time to sort through. So Twitter is probably the best way to reach out. And as always, please share a review on iTunes. It helps the show get found. And one last item, the Men's Health course. We are now at over 2,200 students in the Men's Health course, and have done some surveying of the members and through some webinars, and we are relaunching the second version of that course. So if you're interested in being a beta tester, you can get free access to that course. You just have to message me on Twitter, and I'll get you access to that, or you can find me on any other social media places that typically we hang out. And finished up posting some race photos on Instagram. I've talked about before, I'm a sponsored athlete and into the triathlon season, and have some fun trail races and half marathons coming up this fall. I'll be sharing some photos of that process, and my kids are involved in racing. And that's it. Let's wrap this up. Episode 26. Thanks so much for your time. And as always, have a great week.